what was Sokaku Sensei's weapons training regimen? What has he practiced? Has it been researched? And are any of those practices still taught in Daito-ryu today? Hello, everyone. My name is Mark, and today I'm answering a question I have received regarding Sokaku Sensei's known weapons practice and whether they are still practiced today in Daito-ryu. Has anyone researched the origins of Takeda Sokaku Sensei's weapons practice? And are these weapons practice still taught within the mainline tradition? So thank you for your question. In terms of the research that has been done about Sokaku Sensei's weapons practice, the only one we have records for would be Onoha Ittoryu, and the practice that he did at Shibuya-toma dojo. It is said that he practiced under Sakakibara in Jikishin Kageryu, and I don't believe there's any records of that. There's also, I believe, stories about Sokaku Sensei training in Hozoin-ryu, so spearmanship. I don't believe there's records of that either. By and large, Sokaku Sensei was seemingly, from what we can tell, it was basically a traveler who would go from dojo to dojo and engage in challenges, and to a certain degree, basically tested his skills through various Gekiken session. It is said that he traveled as far as Kyushu and might have picked up a few things about Tode, perhaps, or what is called karate, basically. Again, also something that is not necessarily documented, historically speaking. If he did, though, perhaps he was able to pick on some of the weapons training they had done there. With that said, most of that isn't taught in Daito-ryu today. It's probably better to consider those potential practices as basically part of the legend, I think. There is a bit more of an influence of Jikishin Kageryu today in mainline, thanks to the certain later influences of predominant Jikishin Kageryu practitioner on Daito-ryu. I think starting with Tokimune Sensei. As a matter of fact, the Shinbukan Dojo was given its name, I believe, because by a Jikishin Kageryu practitioner and teacher, actually. So I think that today's influence on some of the practices might actually be through that more than through Sokaku Sensei directly, or at least there's more. There is evidence of that influence, whereas the influence through Sokaku Sensei is a little bit more sparse and perhaps more based on individual recollections, than historical records. Are these weapons practice still taught within the mainline tradition? So, to be clear, just like Onoha Ittoryu is technically today consisting of three different traditions that are segregated. The same thing it happens in Daito-ryu. Daito-ryu, in and of itself, doesn't practice other traditions. It's not supposed to, right? It might borrow exercises from other traditions, but it's not going to borrow the curriculum of other traditions. And that's something important, I think, to keep in mind. There are dojos that still teach Onoha Ittoryu. the Hombu Dojo has on a Daito-ryu training. I think once a week right now. They have also other private sessions for the high level students, I think. But this is separate. It is a separate practice. It is mostly segregated. There's the little overlap there might be is when doing suburi at the Hombu Dojo right now. Just because there's so many students that are practicing both Daito-ryu and Ono Haito-ryu. But they're still two separate practices. They're not either essential one to the other, or in the strictest sense, or one is not a requirement or pre-requirement to the other. So to summarize, has anyone researched the origins of Takeda Sokaku Sensei's weapons practice? Yes, it's been researched. Most of what we know about it today, it comes from individual recollections. There's very little physical historical records to show that he's been around. We just know that he traveled, and our weapons practiced not in Daito-ryu per se, but some dojos actually do weapons practice from other traditions. But those are basically segregated. They're two separate practices, and they're not necessarily mixed together. I hope that answered your question. If you have any follow-up questions, please feel free to put this in the comments. If you have comments, obviously, put them in comments as well. Thank you for your time, and until next time.